Hello everybody and welcome back to Quest 64. Last video we were in the metropolis of Limelin. We went ahead and we looted the entire place for all that it was worth. We got the information that we needed, and now we're going to be heading out to the south of town to the abandoned mine to hopefully find this murderer Fargo who has escaped. And by the sounds of it, he's also the holder of the last gem that we need, the fire gem. So we need to get our hands on that. We also got a clue about our father. He appears to be alive and well and still on the move. So we haven't been able to catch up with him yet or speak to him or anything, but it seems like we're getting closer. So maybe one of these days we'll actually catch up with him. That would be a really nice change. So as you can see here, the terrain changes from grass to dirt. That's usually a pretty good indication that you're going the right way, is if the terrain changes. I'm gonna escape from these caterpillars because they are annoying. In this area, you'll be running into most of the enemies that you've run into from Call Hazard Cave. So if you want to do a little bit of grinding on some of the weaker enemies before continuing on, then by all means do so. You won't be running into the turtles or the fishmen or anything like that. Now the mine is to the left, but we want to go to the right to collect a spirit. We saw this one on a cliff just as we were coming into this area. There's going to be 5 spirits to collect, even before we get to the mine, and another 5 when we get into the mine, on top of the 9 that we collected back in Limelin. We've been getting pretty busy with the spirits. And I also managed to nab a few spirits while I was grinding a little bit off screen. I wasn't able to completely go through the mine in its entirety off screen, but I got through most of it, and it gave me a good opportunity to level up. I had mentioned that I wasn't doing a lot of grinding on the enemies on the world map, but when I got to the mine, I was definitely going to have to level because these enemies are quite tough. There's a spirit to the right of the staircase. And as you can see, this looks like the place to be. It looks more like a sawmill or something to me, but it is actually the mine. I guess there's piles of rocks down there. Although they say it's been abandoned, so there's not any people here to talk to or anything like that. That means that I can just take all the spirits and nobody will say anything to me, so that's great. If we go into the house, there's actually 2 spirits to collect. I'm putting all of my points into rock because we'll be getting another very, very helpful spell called Magical Barrier. And that's going to nullify a lot of the enemy's magical attacks. Which is awesome because most enemies in this game do magical damage. Some of them do physical damage when they're close to you at close range, but magical damage is far more effective and devastating. So we're going to be testing that out soon. And I've just gone ahead and come into the mine, and I'm going to get started. There's a couple of chests to grab just as you come in. The official name of this place, I think, is the Baragoon Tunnel. I'd have to check my map, it would most likely say. And just like with Call Hazard Cave and Blue Cave, there's a lot of tunnels, a lot of confined spaces. Unlike Blue Cave and Call Hazard Cave, however, I don't find that this place is very generous when it comes to giving you safe areas. Definitely something to consider, because the enemies in here are very tough. Most of them are going to be using fire. I cannot believe I just screwed that up. I could die here. Luckily, these guys are pretty weak. I didn't mean to hit it with my staff because it's one of those bobbing enemies that easily avoid your attacks. So as I was saying before I got derailed, most of the enemies in here are fire, and there's only 4 enemies in here, one of which is recycled, so it's nothing really exciting. A lot of the same enemies over and over and over again, so be prepared for that. And I'm probably going to try and run away from most of them, just because I want to try and make some progress in this video. And just like with all of the other dungeons, the biggest strategy for getting through this place is to just follow your compass and pay attention to the direction that you're going. If you are a fire user and you have been using fire up to this point in the game, I would say that this is the point in which fire kind of tapers off and loses a lot of its initial effectiveness that it had in the beginning of the game. But hopefully if you had been leveling up fire, you also have something else to rely on, like rock. Rock's pretty good at this point in the game, especially when you get it leveled up, when you get avalanche and rock level 3. So that's always a good go-to spell if wind or fire just isn't cutting it for you. As soon as you make it past one tunnel, we're gonna have to go through another. This area is not safe either, so keep that in mind. These are the sprites. Again, they're just the typical flying fairy type enemy, very difficult to hit from the ground. I think it's actually physically impossible to hit them with your staff, so you're gonna have to hit them with magic. Rock, I would say, is best for these enemies, and I can take them out in 2 to 3 turns normally. I would use avalanche, but I just want to use rock level 3 to be on the safe side, because they're so clumped together and because they're not in a large group. But so far so good. Let's go through the next tunnel. The music in this area is interesting, but it always makes me feel on edge. There's just something about it that gives that feeling of danger and being in a hurry and being watched. I don't know, that's just me personally. I do like all of the music in this game though. It's one of those things that I think they actually did well, even though a lot of the rest of the game is very lacking. I forgive you, Quest. You're still fun to play. Those will-o-wisps are so damaging, though. I'm glad that they're very weak and I can take them down in a few turns, because they certainly do a lot of damage. Now, did I just go backwards? No, I did not. Okay. Here's our next set of enemies. These are the ghosts, and we've also got some termants. We've seen termants before in Windward Forest, as well as in the area where we met with Colleen and Nepti. So they're very weak. I would say they're most likely the weakest enemy in this entire cave. And the ghosts aren't much to really worry about either. What's really nice about these enemies is that I can take them all out in 2 to 3 turns. I just have to be very careful because they do a lot of damage if my attack misses or I have low health and I'm kind of panicking. I am just gonna run away though, because already I'm starting to get a little disorientated. When I was in here for practice, I did get turned around. So it's not totally uncommon for someone like me to get turned around. I'm horrible with my sense of direction. Nothing special in terms of scenery though. This is pretty much what you're going to be seeing the entire time. Although this area has a lot less straight tunnels, I would say. A lot of them are long, but there's a lot of interesting kind of transitional screens and areas. And it's also kind of neat because you're descending into the mine. You're kind of going deeper into the earth, which is kind of cool. I'm just glad we're out of Blue Cave, personally, because I do not like that place at all. And I've decided not to cut encounters out of here like I did with Blue Cave because it's not nearly as difficult to navigate through. I also don't think it's going to take us as long to get through here. So here is the first spirit of this area. I'm going to start putting some points into wind. And here's a chest for us. Lots of potions, which is really nice. This bridge is going to go on for a little while, and this is the first safe area that the game gives you for the cave. So if you do need to recharge your batteries, charge your MP, heal, and go back and grind or move forward, whatever it is you want to do, this is the place to kind of just stop and take a breath. But like I said, it kind of took a while to get to this point, especially if you're having a bit of trouble earlier on. I think it's really surprising in this game a lot of the time when you do get to a new area, because the enemies are so tough when you get there, but after struggling a little bit, it becomes easier and easier, which I quite like. I also like this bridge for some reason. It doesn't feel out of place, kind of like that big vine did when we were going through Call Hazard Cave. It feels perfectly in place, and even though the scenery is kind of boring, it's neat to get an aerial view. But that's it, that's all the fun. We're back to the enemy encounters. So I'm going to keep on going. And luckily, again, it's pretty linear. There's not multiple paths that make it easy to get lost. So I don't think I need to really overly explain where I'm going. Wind Cutter's still pretty effective in this area, which I quite like. Wind is probably going to be getting a lot stronger now near the end of the game. Whereas, like I mentioned before, fire is going to kind of have the opposite effect. So it's going to be interesting to see how things kind of turn around for me. I don't think I'll have any difficulties though. I don't foresee myself having any sort of internal struggle where I have to drop the controller and rage quit. I'm just going to grab this spirit here, but I don't think I'm going to continue on. This area here is a huge maze. It's kind of like a catacomb, and it goes in all sorts of different directions. It's full of narrow hallways, and if you don't pay attention to your compass, this area can be an absolute nightmare. I don't necessarily feel like going through it right now, so I think this is a good place to stop. We've seen a little bit of the mine for now, and in the next video we will continue on. Thank you for watching, and I hope that I'll see you next time.